bless fine Baba with fine wifey and fine baby. You dey bless me on a regular, on a regular. You dey bless me, you dey bless me on a regular.
All right, so we are live again. We're back. We are back and back and back and back. If you haven't shared, please do share. If you haven't told a friend, please do tell a friend to tell a friend that we're live with TMC. Test mic check. Hello, Michael. How we doing? Okay, we seem to have lost Michael a bit. Hello, Michael.
Your blessings are flowing, your blessings around me. Morning by morning, new mercy. Now you dey bless fine
Yes, please.
Baba.
Can you hear me?
Fine wifey, fine baby.
You can hear me? All right. So, for a lot of people in the music world, a lot of people know you as TMC, right? But a lot of people don't know the history behind TMC. A lot of people don't know how TMC actually came about, okay? But when I met you years ago, I knew as Michael Apreku. So, can you give us the whole rundown? How did TMC come about?
This down, and you've already started getting pressure already. So, there's this page that it's actually a choir called Christ Starline Q, and I happen to be part of that choir. So the next morning they started kind of like teasing me on the page. We're like, "Hey, Charlie, you were just testing the mic. So everybody was like, test mic check, 1 2 1 2. Actually, there is this woman called Nav. She started the whole thing. It was like, test mic check 1 2 1 2. So apparently, I thought they were just trying to laugh at me, but I realized that day when we met, everybody started calling me test mic check 1 2 1. So I remember, I came for rehearsal. I then you as the music director then, and Amo was like TMC. You, Johnny, yourself, you had to compromise to go to make it TMC. So now everybody goes like TMC. So basically, that's how the whole thing came about. Yes, and I realized that now people knew me as TMC more than Michael, because there were times that I could actually be sitting by someone and the person's like, "Charlie, the TMC guy can sing," and I'm like, "Dude, I'm TMC." Like, so I realized that they actually didn't know me as Michael. Long story short, I realized that I had to take the TMC as a brand name, because it was actually selling more than my real name that was given to me by my mom and dad. So, end of story.
When I remember, I think we met years ago. This should be about 10, if I'm not mistaken, over 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
let's start from then, because you started singing very, very young. So let's start from how it all started, the music journey. I know your family is also involved in music and everything. So just give us background.
How it all started for me in music.
Yes.
I think I'm getting a slight feedback from you again. I don't know.
I'll check that. But you can go on.
Okay. So, you sorry, I didn't really get your question, but I'm sure you meant how it all started for me in music, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. So, well, for me, I didn't see myself as a music person, though. Even though I come from a music family, my dad is a music director, my mom is a vocalist, firstborn is a musician, blah blah blah, here and there. My dad is a music director slash a pastor as well, but I just admire seeing them do the whole thing. So there was a time that my dad took me to church for choir practice, and he was giving them some warm-up exercise. I think at that time the technique was more like how to get your vibrato in good position, and he was like he. So dude, I was like, when we got home, I was laughing at my dad, like, Daddy, what were you teaching the car, you know? So apparently, just when I was kind of like teasing him, strangely, I started developing some interest for the whole singing thing. And my uncle has music school as well. So the following day, I followed my brother, the second born, to the music school because I thought, like, I think I'm just curious about this whole music thing. I want to see what's all inside. So my brother was also the vocal coach in my uncle's music school as well. So
Right.
I got there and they were all singing, and then he asked me to come and do a story. In fact, that was actually when I knew I could sing, you know. So afterwards, I went through, I think that was like primary 6 or something. And doing worship, I had a friend called Elvis. She was like, yo, dude, let's go and do a duet together. I'm like, I don't think so. Why do you want me to do a duet with you? And he was like, don't worry. So at that time, I'm in Newman, T.A. Memorial Brooklyn. That was actually the current song during those times.
Okay.
So he called me over and then we started singing. So basically that's how the whole thing started. And people were like, you can sing, you're good. So I was like, okay, let me just measure on that and probably work myself out, you know, and see where this whole singing thing will take me to. But it actually took a different shape, a very serious shape, I think, when I got to the university.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually when I had to tune my mind about this whole singing and realize that it's not just a singing thing, but it's actually a calling in the music ministry that the Lord has placed in my heart, and He wants me to convey a certain message through the music vessel. So basically, that's how the whole thing started. But even when I went to the music school, I wanted to learn the keyboard, but you know, I stopped. You know, so I felt like when they graduated, they gave them certificates. I didn't get some, even though I had not started learning the keyboard. So I got angry that why didn't my uncle give me the certificate? Whether I have started or not, I mean nephew kind of. So he's supposed to kind of like be a little bit biased and all of that. So that's how the whole thing started. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if you mentioned your real name, but your real name is Michael Apreku, but people don't know it at all. Apreku, my daughter. I think when you came on campus, that was
So
one of the
it's actually Michael Opoku Apraku. Yeah.
So it's Apraku, not Apreku.
Well, it's a noun. Anybody wants to pronounce, some want to say Apreku, some want to say Apraku. So.
All right.
Yeah, but I prefer the Apreku though. It sounds boring.
So let's I met you I think 10 years ago, okay? And I remember the first song I can remember you singing was Desire by Kiara Shear.
Yeah.
I remember we going back to Kumasi because we came for the program from Kumasi. We going back to Kumasi. We were like, what kind of kid is this? Because that time we're all like, you know, teenagers and everything, but everybody's voice had broken. So like we're in the car debating that is it a guy or a girl? Because it was weird, very, very weird. And I think you've had experiences with Commissioned and Spirit Intensity. Tell me about your time over there with Commissioned and Spirit Intensity.
Okay, so I was typically this guy who really loved local songs. Like I used to do lots of Brother Sami and Mafos and all those things. I actually had no idea.
I don't think anybody believes you at this point. Please give us one Brother Sami. Give us one Brother Sami.
No, I think right now all those things have actually like left my. But you know, those times I because the Baptist church my dad was pastoring at that time was more into the locals, so I had to go in the locals.
Right.
Yeah, so it was actually when I got to the secondary school, I think either third year or my fourth year, then I got exposed to these concepts. So my big brother came up with a choir called Melodians of the Spirit, and then they added me on to do a soprano. So I was like, okay, fine. But I still had no idea about what contemporary is all about, you know. So that is where the whole thing starts. So it triggered from there, and then George and Pascal from Commission and Maxwell from Spirit Intensity, they spotted me and they were like, dude, you can sing. So I think it was Commission first.
Okay.
Yeah, Commission first. So Commission, no, I think it was Spirit Intensity first rather. And the Commission also coached me and then added me on soprano. So I started learning from there. That's actually when I realized that I love contemporary more than I love foreign. Let me put it that way, more than the local style and everything. So it started like that gradually, and then they made me do Now Behold the Lamb.
Right.
And everybody was like, whoa, you can sing, blah, blah. Basically, so gradually, I took up. And then everything kind of like sharpened up when I got to the university, where I met you, and I met a lot of great people as well who actually coached me and trained me. And now, this is where I am now. So, but I can really do locals when I get into the field. Like, it's still there. But
we've been seeing some recent clips of you doing like a lot of local songs, and I actually like that vibe. So I remember, I think 7 or so years ago, I get a Facebook message from Michael saying that, yo, I just got into tech and I got to this course and everything. And I remember telling my friends that, yo, this guy is coming on campus. You guys, please run. Yeah, so you know, so
I think I remember that too, because when I sent you the message, and I think you asked me to come over for gospel explosion rehearsal.
Yeah.
So I got there, and after the rehearsals, like I think Nancy, Esther, and a couple of us. Yeah, I think Sammy or Ben Poku too. Everybody was like, "Johnny, is this the guy you were talking about?" And they all wanted me to sing. Dude, I was so nervous, like. Seriously.
And it's like you came out swinging. Much like, unlike me, when I came first year, I was what do we call it? That's a term Explo we use for it. It's not Kobolo. We have some Kokoveli, right? I was so I was actually surprised that by second year I was assistant music director. Like it surprised me myself. But Michael came on campus and Michael was swinging. So you came on campus. Was it like campus music? Was it very different from what you would find like back home?
Yes, it actually. Okay, so for my church, it was a little bit different. But from Commission and Spirit Intensity and Melodians of the Spirit, I kind of like had a fair idea.
Right.
It was more of a campus stuff, so it was actually more like a grade 1 for me to build up. So when I got there, it wasn't really something new to discover because I kind of like had a feel of that way back at home. So it wasn't really too different. Yeah, just that I could see more refined vocalists, more refined musicians over there who actually understood what they did. So it kind of like shaped and sharpened me a little bit, you know. Yeah, so that's it.
Because Obuasi has some amazing singers. I think probably one of the cities in Ghana that is probably underrated for the talents they produce in terms of music is Obuasi. Probably followed by Takrade. It has some immense talents because we talk about yourself, we talk about your brothers,
that's very true,
right? We talk about
so true.
What do we call it? People like Charles and George and Pascal, and these are great players in the game. Yes. So
that's very true.
Now you come to campus, right? You were, did you become a frontliner in first year? I don't quite remember.
I became a frontliner for Intellecto first year.
First year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then second year, because I think you were involved in Gospel Explosion and another choir. There was another choir on campus, right?
It was Gospel Explosion and GI at the New Church.
Okay. How difficult was it, like dividing your time between both? Because people don't understand how, like even with one choir and music, that in itself is difficult. So how do you combine like two choirs and then music at the same time?
Well, it was difficult, but everything is about priority. So I think GI, but at the point there were some clashes because GI was meeting on Thursday, and I think Explo front lining rehearsal were on Thursday. So I had to kind of like be decisive and choose one over the other, not necessarily because I didn't love GI or something, but I felt like I was more close to Gospel Explosion more than GI. So that is why I took that decision. Yes, but maybe another person could have chosen GI over Gospel Explosion. Yeah, but it wasn't easy because Monday I would go for Gospel Explosion rehearsal. Tuesday I'm coming for Gospel Explosion Bible studies. Wednesdays I'm supposed to be at midweek service, and Thursday I'm supposed to come for frontline rehearsal and Gospel Explosion. And Friday was only the day that I could say that it was kind of like, no, even on Friday I have some IGS. Yeah, and Saturday I'm supposed to come for GI rehearsal. So you realize that in my week, like I'm everywhere, like I'm doing so many things. So what I did was, if I'm to come for GI rehearsal, and I know that it's from maybe 2 to 4, I realized that after the 2 to 4, I would be at home and try to I would refill the lost time that I've spent, because I have to study at the same time. So your late night hours will have to be strong. You only have enough time to sleep and all of that, because you're actually making up for the time that you probably I wouldn't say lost, but the time that you used for something else. So it wasn't easy, but you have to sacrifice. You have to do yourself. But in all, it was just a priority. What I needed, what I was looking for. This is my priority. That is my priority. So I'm going in for this one. I'm going in for that one. But eventually, GI faded off because I think it faded off because of the time clashes. Yeah, because it was Thursday. Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah. So that's it.
So first year passes by, right? Second year, we're now in the second year. Second year, you become very active in Explo and in mass choir. As you become one of the top players, like in terms of campus music, was there any ambition of becoming music director from that point onwards?
Well, no, I actually didn't have that in mind. I didn't. I just knew I was good at sing and all of that. But I think the whole thing started when I joined in for the music directorate for Explo Night of Joy.
Okay.
And then we were scoring the songs and everything. That's actually when I knew I could actually score songs off head with the notes and everything. But you gingered the whole thing out, because I could see you score songs and you're just writing the notes under the phrases and everything. I'm like, what are you doing? So I became curious, and I also wanted to pick up. So it was there and then that I realized that, I could actually suppose already I could do what I term the intuitive harmony. Our parents, they don't need that triad techniques and everything before they can actually harmonize songs.
Yeah.
So I do that, but in Gospel Explosion, that actually kind of like exposed other I had that I never really paid attention to. So it was actually where I realized that I can be a music director. So when I actually became the assistant music director for Mass Choir in second year, I wasn't too surprised. Yes, because then after I got exposed to the whole other hidden talent, I knew, okay, this is the road that I might be heading to. So yeah, that's it.
And so you become part of the Explo Music Directorate, arguably like one of the most successful nights of joy we've ever had on campus, because it sets a certain standard on campus, starting a program on time, closing on time. Because I remember after that program, people were outside and like, you guys have closed, like really, you guys have closed. that's experience carrying on into third year when you become music director of both Explo and then of Masqua, right? How much of that influenced your music directorship? So how much of your experience being part of these committees and all that and being the assistant influenced you becoming what you were at that point?
Okay. So with Gospel Explosion, we're very particular about how to be original, how to be genuine in your musical delivery. And we were particular about some type of songs that we did and some kind of harmonies that we were very particular about. And your creativity sense, okay, as music director, it was actually sharpened when I was in the MD for, I think MD for Gospel Explosion, and the assistant MD for Masqua, I think I also learned a lot as well, as far as how to handle a number of people is concerned, because the population for Masqua cannot be compared to the number of people in Gospel Explosion. So people management was also actually playing a role in that. So eventually I have to learn. I learned so many things. I learned so many things with how the set of people that I was working with in Masqua were a little bit different from the set of people I was working with in Gospel Explosion. Because it was a Masqua, there were some things that I couldn't really do there as compared to Gospel Explosion.
Right.
Because when it comes to Masqua, you are dealing with so many denominations who are not used to a certain style of singing.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? There are some denominations who don't really understand the rhythms and runs. There are some denominations who really do not understand maybe how to tune as a singer or something. So sometimes when you go there and you want to do that, you will look a little bit weird and stuff like that. So you just, I kind of like gave them according to the environment, but with time to time, I'll have to cheapen a little for them to learn, So gradually, I was kind of like selling and showing them the other side of music that I felt like, I think you guys should also have a look at this one. Yes, but I can compare Gospel Explosion to Masqua because Gospel Explosion was like way more technical than Masqua. Yes, that's actually the truth. So, yeah.
So before you leave school, right? Overflow is now in the mix, right? You get the invitation to join Overflow, right? And it's more like you have to shuffle between Accra and Kumasi and everything. So how was that for you? Like, how did that affect your academics? How did that affect your commitment to stuff on campus and all that?
Oh, it actually affected so many things. So there were times that I have to miss class and go for overflow rehearsals because probably maybe we have rehearsals today morning. So I'll have to set up maybe on Friday, and maybe on that Friday we have a class. But I felt like, no, I don't know, maybe I was just, I wouldn't want to say that I wasted my time or something, because I felt like for me, with my intuition and what I believed, I was convicted of the fact that I was actually following the directives of God. And now everything is actually making sense, because I'm done with school. I have my certificates and everything, but I'm actually not really using that one now. It's the music that is actually feeding me, like big time. It's not like I'm just taking some ounces of money or something, So, yeah, so I was like, no. Campus to Accra, I'd have to go and fetch by a friend in Overflow, and then rehearse with them on the Friday, and then on Saturday maybe we go for the gig or we go for the program and everything. But it was actually very stressful because I was actually behind when it comes to academics. When I came to school first year, I was one of the best students in my faculty. But third year, everything started shaking because I wasn't really paying attention to my academics and everything. It was you know, at a point, it's like I didn't, when I took the book, I literally didn't know where to start from. Like, because everything was like very cumbersome to me, and they were looking over me, you know. But I still had a pull through. It wasn't easy. So I do this a little, I do that a little. But I think I wasn't really able to balance my academic and then my music life.
Mm.
Easy, but I have to try and improve it. Yeah.
So, if you were to go back and change anything, especially with respect to academics, because I see a lot of people who are heavily involved in music, right? And most of them share the same sort of, should I say, the same sense of regret. Okay. Is there anything, because there are students watching out there, is there any advice you can give to any student out there who loves God so much, because it's passion, right? But then there's also academics. So is there any advice or anything you would have gone back and done differently if you had the chance to?
Yeah. Do not miss do not miss class for any unnecessary reason. You know, actually there are times that maybe after, especially during the Esplanade of Joy rehearsals, I would come for rehearsals, and the following morning I'm like, I'm tired, and I wouldn't go for class and I'll be there.
Right.
But one thing I've realized about lectures on campus is that mostly the questions they set come from what they talk about at lectures. It's not even coming from the lecture notes or the what's it called, the handouts that they are giving to you, you know. So mostly it's very important you're in class. If you're not able to make it to class, make sure you take them. And do not ever think that I think God is not going to use me for academics, so I just want to do it anyway anyhow. No, I wouldn't advise that you do that, because even Scripture says that a false balance is an abomination for God, and He has given us wisdom and has given us the ability to manage things. So if you realize that your capacity or your tendency of managing so many things, you cannot do that. Make sure you don't do that. And please, if you want to take any position, probably I would advise that you take that position when you're about to move into third year, because by then at least your average would be a little bit okay.
Right. And
so even if you take over the responsibilities and your average reduces, which shouldn't be so, but just in case your average reduces, at least by the time you're done with school, you could get some substantial average mark that you can use for something. Yeah. So please do not take your academics for granted. Yeah, it's very important. And don't try to combine so many parts in campus if you know you can't handle it, because probably you're handling so many things that it is not even giving you a second to breathe.
Right.
And that's very crazy and very dangerous and risky to do. I see myself as somebody who has been grace and favor. So grace just still found me here. But you might not know what would happen when you complete school. Right. Yes, if grace doesn't find you, if the favor of God doesn't find you, I don't know, anything else can happen. You know, so please take your academics seriously and don't ever miss that. And always study. Always study. It's always best, and because of your commitment to so many things, it's always best to always jot down notes that the lecturers, especially when you go for classes, the things that the lecturers say, it's very important to jot them down, because mostly they are the ones that appear in the exams and everything. So, yeah.
Wow. All right. So, if you haven't told a friend that we're live, please do. We have with us this morning the man himself, TMC Music. And please show us with some love. Can you share? Can you like? Can you comment? If there are any questions that you have, the man himself is here. So please do comment and send us send in your questions and send in your remarks, if there be any. All right. So, Michael, let's talk about after school, right? Now, you're done with school, okay? And obviously, overflow becomes more of a central point for you, okay? With overflow, can you give us some of the artists that you've had the opportunity to work with during your time there?
Oh, so many, from
Right.
the late, the late Benimete to Mitchell to Pastor Isaiah to there are so many. I can't even keep count. To Minister Namesi, to almost all the great artists, gospel artists in Ghana. Like about 90% of them. To Minister Akese. Well, for Minister Akese, he used to come to Obuasi, so I think the connection started from there.
Right.
Yeah. To I mean, all of them, but so many. To Pastor Alvin Slaughter, to Create, to Pastor, I think Patrick Duncan, and so many of them, so many of them.
Wow.
So many of them.
So, you're in overflow, right? What was the experience in overflow like? Because people see overflow like high and mighty, right? What was it like? What does it take to be in overflow and to stay in overflow? Because we see people who, audition, get into overflow and everything, but after some time, they're out of the picture. What does it mean to be in overflow, and not just that, to also be able to stay in overflow?
Okay. So, what overflow would do to you is that overflow don't just look at it. Overflow doesn't just look out for great singers or great vocalists or something. They're looking for people who can actually communicate a message through the singer. Okay, and so you will need a presence. Okay, both the social presence and the stage presence. So I've seen many people come in to overflow, and they are very great. I mean, in terms of vocals and everything, but it would be quite rare to see them lead songs often because they are still in the training process. You have to. For me, I realized that I was the riffing guy, like a riff and sing high pitches and everything almost all the time. But overflow has to sit me down and give me a wider scope of how I can actually utilize my vocals in so many ways. So I have to discover so many things within me, okay, to give myself a very great vocal appeal for people. So at a point, it looked like I was quite predictable, If TMC doesn't do this pentatonic scale, he's going to do this high pitch or something, So overflow will go like, yo, don't be predictable. You understand? Yes. And so some people come for auditions, and unfortunately, they try to impress. Trying to do lots of rape and stuff like that, and they sound very immature with their lyrics as well. So at the end of the day, you're very good of a singer, but you're not going to be picked because you're not just looking for people who can sing. We're looking for people who can communicate a message. So at the end of the day, after all your vocal acrobatics and your vocal deliveries and everything, you're supposed to send a message. So if the message doesn't reach us, I mean, it's Coach 19. Yeah. So basically, that's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, you get into overflow, right, and everything. But let me just follow up with this question, right? Because it's very, very important to me. I personally have had to defend you on a number of occasions, right? How do you handle criticism? Because a lot of people don't understand exactly what you do, but I sort of understand it. How have you handled criticism along the years? Of people saying, oh no, like you were saying, right? People are talking about, oh, you being predictable and everything. How have you handled criticism over the years?
So for me, I just give a deaf ear to some of them because some of them just come to actually discourage you.
Exactly.
Some of them are actually not criticizing you, but they just want to kind of like say something to dampen your spirit, So you just have to be very discerning and you have to be able to know that this person is trying to say that just to kill your fame or something. So for me, I don't really pay attention to that. But I wouldn't deny that there have been times that it gets to me so much that, okay, so I was actually in a certain season where I didn't really want sing again because people actually made me feel I couldn't sing. But eventually, I came to realize that the people who actually came couldn't sing were actually people who couldn't sing at all. But I don't know why what they said really got to me and made me kind of like, yeah, because apparently, you know, our style of singing is not really, it is just recently that people are kind of like buying into the contemporary stuff and stuff like that. So those people actually make me feel like you can sing all of that. But eventually, with experience and everything, I came to realize that but these people cry, they can't even sing. So why are they trying to make me feel bad? Then I realized that they do that because they thought like maybe I'm taking their shine or something. So I decided not to let it happen again. So there are some voices that you need not to pay attention to. Because when you pay attention to those voices, you become intimidated. You begin to see yourself as inferior and stuff like that. You know, they used to say something like, "Hey, what do you baby and that kind of thing." So it makes you think that you are not spiritual because you are resting, and which is very unscriptural, and is actually a sign of ignorance and so many things as well. So I decided not to listen to some of the criticisms that come because they just come to dampen your spirit, you know. But some are very constructive, you know, and when you listen, you know that, okay, this person is trying to correct you to maybe place this thing on the box or place that thing here or place that thing over there. So when you hear, you know. So when you know the criticisms are constructive, you know they are. When they are not, you know they are not. And no matter what you do, people are still going to talk about you.
Right.
So you need to be very focused because at a point, I was like, okay, let me just follow what they also do. Let me follow their trend. But later on, I realized that, nah, I'm just losing my uniqueness because that's not me.
Yep.
So I still have to be very consistent because over the years, even there were times that you couldn't even sing maybe Jometto's new song, Hide Me, in a church. You can't sing it, you know. But I realized that some people who came before us had to pay the price. You know, they had to stick their neck inside and kept on pushing the contemporary. A great legend is the late Nete. They have to push in the contemporary over and over. They kept pushing. And now people have come to accept it, you know. So I believe that sometimes the more you become consistent with something, gradually you begin to get the market and people will buy into your product. Yeah. So, yeah, that's it.
Right. So we're going to start teaching people a few things soon. But before that, following up on what you said, right? One thing that people don't realize is that skill in itself is spiritual. The Bible says that, and I've filled Bezalel with all of my spirit. It talks about the spirit of wisdom and talks about the spirit of skill. So skill in itself is actually spiritual. Show me a skillless man or an unskillful man, and I'll show you a person who is unspiritual. For a lot of people who talk about skill, like you were saying, I realize that some of them don't have any whatsoever. Some of them too do the same things that you do, and then will criticize you for the same things that you are doing because they see as competition. But some of them are constructive as well. Some of them actually do mean well. And for those ones, like you said, you have to discern and then to pick. So today we're going to talk about this. I don't know how many people can see this. We're going to talk about this. Since we have test mic check here, we have to test our mics and we have to talk about microphones, right? Now, so we're going to start off. TMC is going to give us some tidbits about sound check, about what we should do when we are testing our sound, because, you know, like he's the sound check master, you know, that's how it's all began. All right, so we're going to talk about microphones. So Michael, over to you.
Okay, so where do I start from? Okay, so I'll say that microphone has a way of kind of like altering your sound a little bit. You know, I don't know if people have realized this thing that sometimes you go like, the way I sound when I'm in my room is different from the way I sound when I'm in the microphone. You know, but sometimes your poor microphone handling technique will actually either alter your sound or give you a better sound. You know? And there's so many types of microphones. Okay, we have what people call the omnidirectional microphone. Others we have or the universal microphone. and we have the cardiac microphone, or the the unidirectional microphones, and you have the bidirectional microphones. Okay? So they all have roles to play.
Right.
Some of the microphones we use at the studio for recordings, you can use that microphone when you're in church. That's the microphones that you use at the parliamentary houses that are purposely for speech. You can use that for singing, you know. So, and they are all made with some frequencies, you understand? So you need to pay attention to the role or the rules or the manual for that particular microphone you're using. So I'll probably have to take it down to just the microphones we use in church.
Right.
So that microphone, I don't have a microphone here, but
Right.
I think the one
Cardioids.
yeah, the cardiac microphone. Yeah, these ones are quite top. Yeah, and it's actually a unidirectional microphone. But let me see if I can probably demonstrate something. When you're using this particular microphone, when you look at the structure of the microphone, the diaphragm, you realize that it is made in such a way that it will take sound from just the unit, from just one direction like that. Block let's say noises from the other side. So if you're using this particular microphone, just a minute, let me try and use this one.
Right, sure.
Maybe. So just picture this place as your the place where the sound is supposed to come.
Yes.
If you're using this particular microphone, some of the types of microphones are very sensitive, but I've come to like the Shure microphones more. So that's the one that I'll probably recommend for every check. So if you're using a microphone like this, make sure that it is not too much of a 90-degree axis to your to your mouth level or your vocal level. I think it has to be a little bit slanted. I don't know if you can see, but it shouldn't be like that. It should be maybe something like this, so that it can take the sound from this direction. Yes, it's very advised. And then you should know the vocal texture you have. You know, some people, they have loud voices. Others, their voices are... I am a loud singer, like very loud,
Okay.
you know. So I know how to handle myself when I'm singing, you understand? And others are very tiny. Naturally, their voices are tiny, you know, because of the vocal folds and the vocal cord makeup, you understand? So you should know how your voice sounds like, so that when you pick a microphone, and probably you are all a soprano, and you're standing on the same stage, and assuming you've all been given the same frequency or the same sound level,
Right.
what you need to do as a loud singer is that you have to kind of like distance your microphone a little bit, because when you take it very closer, you will become very loud and you wouldn't hear the others. So that is what you are supposed to do. So basically, your microphone check, your leveling, it's and the distance between your the diaphragm of the microphone and your vocal level should be about I don't know how to put it, but it should be like 1 or 2 inches. Okay, 1 or 2 inches is more like I don't know how to. It's like, okay, you can just do a fist like this and then place it to the mouth and then place the microphone there. So maybe it should be a little bit like that. That's how I can explain it. 'Cause I don't know how to do 1 inch for people to see. I don't know if people are watching, but if it's one, maybe something like this, you know, you shouldn't get too close to the mouth, because sometimes if you take it too close to the mouth and there are infections on the mouth, especially those ones that you inhale and stuff like that, it can affect you, you know. In this time where there's even coronavirus and everything, it can actually be a big issue for you. Yeah. But unfortunately, the reason sometimes, even myself, I do it, that I'm tempted to take the microphone very close, because sometimes I feel like I can hear myself in the stage monitors and I don't know whether I'm sounding okay or I'm not sounding okay.
Right.
And sometimes I have to even copy the microphone like that, which also gives you a different sound. And it's actually not advisable to copy the microphone. But unfortunately, most of Ghana is themselves. You know? So you don't have to. There's a handle for the microphone. That's what you're supposed to hold. Don't hold that part, because it gives you a different frequency. It gives you a different sound. Sometimes it gives you a distorted sound, and it's very not advisable. So basically, it's not, microphone technique is not really a big deal, But if you don't know how to handle it, it will affect the way you sing. And you see, like I said, that unidirectional microphone, it picks the microphone from this that side. So if you hold it and you sing from this side, the range of frequency there, how do I put it? The range of frequency there is not going to be appealing for your ear. You understand? Because the sound doesn't really pick from that side.
The polar pattern.
So make sure you don't sing holding the microphone like this. Yeah, exactly. So make sure you don't hold the microphone like this and then sing from that side because it's polar to that direction. Yeah. So I don't know if they might have any questions or something. So basically, using a microphone in church, those type of microphones, yeah. But in case where you have the multi-directional, but that one is multi-directional, so you don't have a problem. You just sing from all those sides. So during sound check, I realized that during sound check too, people don't sing out. You understand? But the reason you have to sing out is because we want to check how high you can go and then tune it to that level so that in case you are doing a sound check and you even go high, you've been checked already, so you wouldn't sound louder than the others. You understand? But unfortunately, I don't know if it's nervousness or tension or, when you're asked to sing during sound check, it's like, unlike me who sing out and even try to show up a little bit, others will kind of like tone down and they're shy and they're nervous, but you need to sing out, sing it out.
So
sing
it's
your heart
intentional.
out. Go as high as you can, go as low as you can go.
I mean, I didn't know it was intentional.
Yeah,
the showing off pattern.
That's it. Sorry?
I'm saying that he just confessed that it's intentional. The showing off pattern. I mean, I didn't know it was intentional.
Oh, it's maybe, I don't know. Is it intentional? I don't know. I can tell.
Sometimes in here, you have to show the kids that somebody has come into the room. You see. Yes.
Yeah, mobile time is very important.
That actually is very, very informative. A lot of people don't realize that a lot microphones are different. You ask people what's the difference in microphones, they will say Shure and Sennheiser. Those are just brands, but microphones are different. Like Michael rightly said, we call these microphones the ones that we use to sing and to preach in church. Usually, those that have this shape, we call them cardioids. Okay, so that's a type of microphone. If you look at the microphones that radio presenters use, TV presenters use when they are out on the field, reporters use when they are out on the field, that one is also a different kind of microphones. We call those ones shotgun microphones. So they're different kind of microphones and they all serve different purposes. So like he said, if you're using a cardioid, right? Now, a cardioid, the reason why we call it a cardioid, because I was talking about the direction from which it picks sound. Okay, every microphone, every different type of microphone has a direction from which it picks sound. Now, we call that thing the polar pattern. So, polar patterns basically are the directions or the direction in which any type of mic picks sound. So, the differences in microphones are according to polar patterns. So, for example, we have omnidirectional because it can pick sound from every direction, right? We have figure 8 microphones, okay, because it can pick from the front and the back. So those ones are what we call polar patterns. Every microphone has a different polar pattern. So if it takes, say, this one, right? The reason why we call it a cardioid is because if you hold this like this is the direction from which it picks sound. You can, I don't know if you can see this very well. I can pick sound from this direction, right? So this is basically its range or its direction from which it can pick sound. Now it forms the shape of a hat, like it's almost like a hat sign, right? So that's why we call it a cardioid, from the word cardio, right? So cardio in relation to the heart. So that's why we call it a cardioid, right? So we have different kind of microphones, and all these microphones, for example, this microphone I'm using right here has what we call phantom in it. This thing does not. So they serve generally different purposes. Okay, so another classification of microphones also could be corded and cordless, right? And that's actually basic knowledge. So with the corded microphones, you just need to connect it with an XLR cable. People call it male and female, because one end has holes and the other end has pins. Okay. Yes, basically that sort of explains it, right? Like, there's no need to drift off into your sick mind, right? But yes, we call these cables. So you see, this end has the holes. I don't know if you can see the holes on this end of the cable, which connects this microphone, and the other end, which you cannot see right now, has pins. Okay, so we call this side the female side, and that is the male side. That's just one of the names that we use for it. So microphones are actually different. To add on to what Michael said, one thing that I see a lot of people do when they're testing their microphones is this. If I'm on stage with you, you probably get slapped. One of the things I advise people to do is just use your fingernail, just rub it on it. Just rub it on it. It will produce a sound enough for you to know that, okay, this microphone is working, right? This is a technique that I advise people to use when you're on stage. Like, I don't mean sound check, but I mean when you're on stage and the audience is in the room. Okay, this is very simple. You hear some
you can see the vibration.
Exactly. So you know that the microphone is actually working. And much like Michael said, this is not good technique, right? Because it doesn't give you the proper sound. When you cap the microphone like this, it doesn't give you good enough sound, right? Well, one last thing I'd also like to mention is this probably goes to a lot of sound engineers, right? Please, sound engineers, if you're a sound engineer out there, please stop gating our microphones too much. Sometimes they put a gate as high as heaven on the microphones. Now, when we talk about gates, okay, gates are should I say caps they put on microphones so that other sounds don't bleed into the microphones. Okay, so for example, you're on stage, there's a drum. When we say bleeding, you know, the drum is an acoustic instrument basically, so the drum sound can come into your microphone, right? Now they put a gate on your microphone to prevent, say, drums from coming into your microphone, to prevent the keyboard sound from coming into your microphone. But sometimes it actually hurts us a lot, because sometimes when you gate it too much, there's certain things that we sing, especially lower frequencies. If somebody is riffing and the person does something really, really low, we can't hear the person, and we'll feel as if the person did not even complete his riffs or his runs, or the person is not singing too well.
Exactly.
So gates are too much. Okay. Also, if you are a loud singer, please work with your sound engineer, because if you pull it too far back, right, what happens is that your other sounds bleed into it. Okay, so it's very, very important that you work with your sound engineer. Let your sound engineer know that, okay, please, I'm loud, so let's work on my EQ. Okay, let's work on getting my sound right, and then you can take it from there. So these are some things that you really need to know about mic techniques. It's very, very important. Michael, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Oh, I think basically you said the whole thing. So that's it. You for the loud singers, I really have a little problem with that, because I had a problem with that, you know. So, but then eventually I had to work it out, or I have to also practice how to, I call it the pullback technique, you know, how to make sure that I can still reduce the frequency of the intensity of my sound, even though I'm still coming out loud. Those times I'll still be loud. I'll still, now I press the same octave, or I hit the same pitch, but the loudness or the intensity is actually different, because I've learned for the pullback technique. Pullback technique is where you don't kind of like, I don't know how to put it, but it is actually found in the mixed range register, you know, where you're still singing a C8 or a C6 or something, but it is not as loud as it is before, because you've actually learned how to tune or to pull the sound back so that you don't pull up the full sound out. So I could pull back technique. Maybe I will try that next time, but I don't really know how to kind of like demonstrate that at this point in time. So maybe you can try that as well. And there's something that I learned from Karen Clark. She can be very loud sometimes, but I realized that her microphone can still be at the same position and she's still singing loud, but it still sounds very upbeat. But I realized that, like you said, she's actually been working with a sound engineer. So probably at that point in time where she's actually about to go high or something, the engineer is working on the mixer, or is working on her vocals or something like that. So I think you just have to, for me, sometimes when I'm singing and I kind of like just stamp the microphone a little bit when I'm singing high, I don't feel too comfortable. So I had to learn the pullback technique where I didn't have to kind of like push the microphone too far and then sing. But I also let the microphone be there. But then I'll still sing loud as I'm singing, but it will still sound appealing. So maybe they can kind of like practice that technique out as well. Maybe it can help them. Yeah. So.
All right, so I'm going to use this microphone, right, to kind of experiment and to show people what some of the things that Michael was talking about, right? So generally, there's a pull-up pattern. Now, if you really want to belt out a note, right, you really need to belt out a note.
Yeah.
So I've switched to this microphone. I'm not using this microphone again, right? You can either pull it back, right, or because the pull-up pattern is this way and it's lying like towards your mouth, you can just bend it down. Because you realize that the sound is not as effective as this. Obviously, this is louder than this, right? And that's why it works for a lot of men of God, because like when you pull it, it's almost has the same effect as you pulling it back as this. Now, the difference between this and why I would actually prescribe this is because when you do this, it sort of sounds fainter, but the sound is clearer than this. All right, so usually I advise people to pull it back, but if you would want to, you can just bend it like this, okay? But on a normal day, please keep it like this. And also, I don't know if you can sort of see my my arms, right? You just have to lean your arms on the side of your ribs, okay? Just lean it there so that or your arms don't get tired, right? Those are some of the things. Now, we will wrap up soon, but I think second year intellectual. Let me just switch back to my other mic. Right, second year intellectual. We're having sound check, and I remember. Okay, we're done with sound check, and I get down, and everybody's like, "Why is it that when you sing every line is like there's this sound that comes out?" Yeah. And it's something that I didn't know about until probably a year later on or something. We call those things plosives, right? Are there any things that somebody can do to actually avoid like plosives, like those pop sounds? Because a lot of people produce it a lot.
Okay.
Hello?
For studio, they have the pop shield. That helps.
Right.
Yeah. But stage performances, nobody's going to give you the pop shield or something.
Right.
So you need to, for me, this is what I do. So if I'm singing a song that has too much of the P's and probably those ones that will make me make the B or the P or those kind of sounds, right. I make sure that I'm very conscious that I don't overhit that P sound, you know. So it still falls down to the pullback technique. Yeah, right. You don't have to come out too loud. So maybe you're singing a song like, please, you know, you can say please. And you're still going to hear the P or you're still going to hear the sound. Right. You know, like, well, please, you know, like you're putting too much stress on that. You know, and sometimes just planting the microphone also helps. You understand? So, but a case where you're singing as a high into something that you're spontaneously singing and there are too much P's, I mean, you need to work in that. You need to be, how do I put it? You need to be very conscious, yes, and make sure that you don't stress on your P sounds too much, because at the end of the day, it's going to give you that feedback. Yeah. For me, that's what I've actually experienced or learned and worked on. Yes, yeah. So,
right.
Yeah.
You know, and like you said, the studios have already have the pop shield, which deals with the pops, or we call them plosives as well. Now, apart from that, just to add on to what TMC is saying, one thing you can do to prevent that is just to lick your lips. It's actually caused because of friction between your lips. So your bottom lip and when you're parting, there's friction. So like when you open your mouth like that, especially with the consonant sounds, the friction automatically causes an unconscious sound, right? So that's how it's caused. So you can just, if you lick your lip, or you can just apply lip gloss. It doesn't make you gay or anything. Okay, you can just apply lip gloss, and I say you'll be on stage and do the whole time. Maybe the girl sitting in the front seat will think you like her or something. Okay, so You can just use lip gloss. It doesn't really affect anything. All right, so this has been truly informative. I'll just pick a few comments on social media. We have comments coming through from Precious Triton Mao, and Precious says TMC has a lot of fans in the street, so TMC is popular in the street. You know. We also have a comment coming through from Stephania Daphne Ray, and Stephania says that following God regardless makes a lot of sense in the end. Truly, it does make a lot of sense in the end. And Precious again goes TMC. I think Precious likes your matapa. All right, we have Kumsin Nathan saying great lessons on microphone techniques. We have also another comment coming through from Stephania Daphne Ray, and it says that sound check wahala. Everyone wants to hide their vocal prowess so people don't look at them some way. All right, Stephania also goes on to say very informative, the microphone techniques. Thank you very much. We have Solomon Amponsa saying learning a lot. God bless you guys. Jose Word Out also comes in with wow, this is very, very informative. Bless you guys. God bless you too, Jose. We have Ed Dawson Amwa also saying abide, oh, keep giving God your best. Abide, Pastor Edwin. So Michael, are there any projects that we should expect anytime soon?
Yes, I'm working with some new blog sessions, and I'm working on some EPs that I'll probably release not probably into the mid-month of the year. So I'm working on that. Those are the two major things I'm working on now. So people should be expectant. Yeah, and I'm very sure it's gonna bless lives as well. Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great. That's great. That's great. So you heard this here first. There's an EP coming. There are some unplugged sessions coming out from the camp of TMC. So TMC, can you give us your social media handles where people can find you and follow you and all that?
Okay. So the social media handle is just TMC Music. That's all. Right. So it's TMC then _, and the music is spelled MUSIQUE. MUSIQUE. That's actually the French spelling for music.
Okay.
So technically it's supposed to be TMC Music, but I mean, just to slang it up a little bit. Yeah, it's TMC Music. So it's that for all my social media handles. Everywhere you go, and you're punching the TMC Music, it would pop out. Yeah.
Right. So, good to have you. Let me just read this comment before I let you go. From Jose Word Out, where Jose says, Johnny, tell TMC to feature me. I'm a rapper. So please, if you have any hip hop beats, please, I beg, feature. You can link up with Jose. You can link up with him on any of his social media handles, and then you guys can take it from there. Thanks so much, TMC, for your time, for your energy, for the information that you've given us today. And for anybody who didn't join us today, you've missed. For anybody who joined us, I'm sure you've enjoyed today's session so far. This has been Choir Practice with Johnny Hake. One more time, you can find me on social. You can find me on Instagram at Johnny_Hake. You can also find me on Twitter at Hake Johnny. You can find me on Facebook, Johnny Hake. You can also follow any of our social media handles. You can follow us on Twitter at The Christian Ave. You can follow us on Instagram as _Christian_Avenue. You can also find us also on Facebook, The Christian Avenue. In case you want the latest news on anything kingdom related, because we are all about it, and you can also follow our website, www.thechristianavenue.com. This has been another wonderful edition of Choir Practice. I'll see you same time next week, Saturday. Shalom. Have a blessed week.
Jesus, you are.